Hello, everybody that's just joining us. We got a cute little video that we've chosen a couple there you might enjoy on the topic of marketing, and it's a lovely morning. I'm sure it's a lovely morning everywhere this week, unless you're in a terrible place.
So here we go. Our new website launches in a month. Great work, everyone. Launch means marketing, though. Marketing means content. It means something that's like punchy and shareable and does well on social. Who was the customer? Millennials. They're so great. Okay, so let's see your ideas. What do you got? Nice.
Okay, wait, I have something much better.
I like it. Can we make it go viral? Let's check in with the social media manager.
Oh my god, look at this tiny hamster eat a tiny burrito.
Oh my god, it's so tiny.
I'm so dead.
That's not good enough. It's ideation time.
Siri, what does on fleek mean? Tell us what our customer wants. Concentrate harder.
Wait, guys. You know we even tried yet?
Come on, you guys do it.
What's up with marketing? I think this is just how we brainstorm. Seems labor intensive. Yep.
What does the marketing team even do?
Why isn't sales act on the leads we just passed them?
I see you're on our website, and I was, oh, well, I honestly don't know if we're hiring right now.
Ask the sales team why they can't sell.
Leads. Just a bunch of kids that signed up for the free iPad.
Can't talk now, working on the slide deck.
Our solution is revolutionary.
Remember, no award is too little or beneath us.
Remember, everything everywhere is networking. Yeah. Morning, Chris.
How many new leads? Well, we have 72 new Twitter followers.
A hot lead doesn't need a lead scoring. Who cares if they open an email with a killer subject line?
Killer subject line.
I know he's the assistant manager to the assistant manager. He has a lot of influence.
We need to be the Google, not the Bing.
We are the market leaders.
I am a marketing guru.
Hey, I'm just a sales rep.
What do they even do all day?
Always be closing. Always be closing.
We have original ideas.
Trust me.
There are no original ideas.
Trust me.
Didn't you log activity on the CRM?
Every second I'm logging in CRM is time I'm not spending in front of the customer. Who wants to go grab lunch?
I like where this is going. I'm just not sure it's there yet.
I don't like being measured, and I don't like being told what to do. I am in sales. Why is the European team trying to get a piece of my deal? Who cares if their headquarters is in Paris?
Our lead leakage is horrible.
Marketing thinks there's lead leakage. You have to have water flow for there to be leakage.
50 points for subscribing to the newsletter, 5 points for opening the email, 10 points for clicking on the link. Huh, this lead is hot.
I was told that our project is the CEO's #1 priority.
Did the sales rep really wait until 1 week before the conference to let us know that they were interested in attending?
3 customers and a handful of prospects are going to be there. Of course I need to be at this conference.
Who cares if this tactic leads to actual sales? It got great buzz.
Are they ready to sign a contract today? Otherwise, it's not a lead!
You want supporting data. I typically base my decisions on gut instinct, or whatever we did last year.
In order to get this deal signed, I told the account they could pay us in the year 2018. That's okay, right?
We're getting ready to roll out our new branding guidelines and website. This will have a significant impact on sales.
Marketing people are just snappy dressers. who are easily fascinated by the latest shiny object.
Ooh, it's a great stock photo.
I am not the customer service department.
Sales just doesn't understand our marketing strategy.
It just boils down to spamming an email list. Admit it.
It's the sales team's fault we can't turn the leads into sales.
Sales and marketing.
Just can't seem to get on the same page.
Until
Until
now.
now.
So welcome everybody to another week of AutoHub. This week we're talking about marketing, and specifically marketing and sales, because obviously there's always a crossover. These are a couple of books for the week. The Intelligent Investor, Benjamin Graham, he's the guy who inspired Warren Buffett, if you don't know. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Chris is a former FBI investigator who also took the Harvard course on negotiation. Really good book on negotiating if you want to get better at that. And one of my personal favorites, Oren Klaff, one of the best sales authors I know, just wrote his new book called Flip the Script. If you're curious about how to change the way scripting works at your dealership or change the way you sell, it's a great book. Highly recommend. So again, another week with Jeff Polo, our latest edition, and of course me, Ian Nethercutt, and we're talking about marketing. So first of all, some housekeeping items for AutoHub. This is our meeting, not my meeting or Jeff's meeting. Please mute and unmute yourself. Click raise your hand and we'll call on you. You can also put something in the chat and I'd be happy to do it that way as well if that's easier for you. There's a wealth of knowledge on the call, so let's share and respect each other's time. We ask that AutoHub participants be open to sharing ideas and be okay with others using them. Absolutely no selling please on the call. Open discussions with a focus on improving business. We value your input, speak up and bring value. Brainstorm ideas, ask questions. Be respectful of everyone's time. We're all busy professionals. Stay on topic. Challenge our speakers to bring value and content that can help you, because that's the point. Vendor Speak Friday session. You can visit autohubclub.com for more details. We're gearing up this part of the site, so you'll see more about that. You'll also see emails about it as we move forward. If you're a past speaker and you want to be on Vendor Speak, just reach out to me. And that's what Vendor Speak's all about. So week 15, marketing and automotive. Two great speakers, Barry Jordan, who's been a long-time viewer of the show, a lot of deep automotive experience, and Robert Carbon, head of business development for Kijiji Auto, who also has a lot of experience working for big and small auto groups and marketing. So I'm going to go ahead and Jeff's going to start with an introduction of Barry.
Good morning, everybody. As I said, welcome and glad you're joining us today. And we start with again, our good friend of our show, Barry Jordan, who's been here many, many, many times. And Barry's got a very, very deep automotive experience. And he's one of those people, actually told me just this morning, he said, you know, he got into this into the marketing side of things through White Glove Performance when he was in dealerships and he couldn't find a solution to what he needed. And so therefore, like any smart guy, he created it. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Barry. Thank you for coming to us and spending some time and sharing your wealth of knowledge.
Well, good morning, everybody. I just asked really quickly to have this slide put up. I'm not going to read it to you, but I thought it was probably the most encompassing description of really what the marketing trail looks like. And when we're going down and we're talking about marketing, there is a huge spread between, are you advertising, is it promotion, are you just looking for some publicity, or are you actually purposely marketing? And there's really, marketing splits into two different avenues. One is when you're marketing to a database. The other one is when you're actually out banging on the drum trying to get some publicity and get a new customer. I think we all know the costing difference between the two is substantially different. When you're out trying to get some conquest marketing done, you know, we're talking seeing numbers anywhere from, you know, $500 a customer up to $800 a customer in some markets. And yet you've got this lovely database sitting in your possession that can cost you anywhere from $30 to $40 per transaction to get some action out of that. And, you know, when we start talking to different dealers, different industries, and we start with the conversation of what does your database look like? How clean is your database? Do you have the right contact information in the right fields? Do you have the right emails where they need to be? Are you able to actually reach out to your customer when you want to reach out to them? And are you going to the right spot? Are you ending up in the right email where you're not getting ignored? Are you in the email where that relationship, that couple's relationship, oh, that's just the email I give out to everybody so I never have to check it. That's my spam email that I send to everybody. Or do you have the actual email that people will actually look at and respond to? So when we start with that, we start with the information and we say, you know what? We need to know that we've got how many people and how many people can we contact. And the other thing we are very, very focused on is making sure that every contact is not a sales contact. When we reach out to people, we want to make sure that we're reaching out with relevant information. And when we're going out to when we're going out to a database, when we're saying, okay, let's do this, we typically start with a newsletter so that we can prompt people to open our emails, so that we're sending them a hack in the middle of winter on how to heat your car up sooner, how to cool your car off quicker in the summer, how to make a good banana bread, how to make sure that the mosquitoes don't bite you, whatever it is. But it's just a one-page newsletter that goes out on a monthly basis so that people are used to opening your emails. Then from there, we start reaching out with very focused, very, very focused phone calls and very, very focused emails. And we find that when you're relevant, when you're actually reaching out to people with useful information, people really do want to read it. They want to see it. They want to listen to you. They want to have that conversation. So then when you actually do want to reach out with a special sale, with a special promotion, you've actually reached the right person at the right time, and it virtually costs you nothing because they're already in your database. So rather than going out and buying big lists and spending big money and going through all this, because that's a lot of work, you can actually reach out just to the people you actually have. We get a lot of conversations about how do we reach out to these people and who actually should be talking to them. If you're in an automotive situation and you're wanting to reach out to your customers, you should be calling everybody who was in yesterday that didn't buy a car. And your manager should be reaching out and saying, hey, you were in yesterday. I see we didn't put something together. What can we do to help you put that together? When a salesperson leaves the floor, whether they get promoted, whether they leave your store, everybody that they touch base with should get a phone call and say, hey, Salesman Bill is no longer with us, no longer working the floor, is moved into service, whatever the case may be. Just wondering if there's any unfinished business that you would like us to go over. If you've got salespeople, they should be calling people every time the OEM programs change. Every time that your manufacturer changes your programs, you pick up the phone and you call everybody and you say, good thing you didn't buy a car because things just got better. When can I book you an appointment? When you're calling your lease portfolio, you should have a cadence that everybody follows into. And it's, what is your 8-month program? What is your 1-year program? What is your 6-month? What is your 3-month? What's your 2? What's your 3-week? You should never have somebody showing up at your door saying, I'm here to drop my car off and walking away. When you've got a special event sale, everybody should get a phone call. Did you get our mailer? Did you see it? You should know the neighborhood you're calling. Does it have a centralized mail system, or do they get mail to their front door? You need to know how long does it actually take for them to go check their mail, look at your flyer, and have it in their head that this is going to be something that's going to happen in the future. Then they get a phone call from you and they'll say, yes, I did see it. Or, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, you just wasted a ton of money on a mailer that went to a centralized mail system that nobody's ever looked at. And you're out $5,000, $1,000 on your mailer.
So Barry,
Yes.
why would somebody not want to market to their own database? Because it's very funny, these comments you're making. And I've run into it. I've seen this. Why wouldn't somebody want to do this?
I think the biggest thing that people run into is they're either don't have clean and clear information, and some people's databases are fantastic, they're clean, they're wonderful. Others are an absolute atrocious. Some people will say, I've got 8,000 people in my database, but really and truthfully, I can only get a hold of 2. And so it's something that they just put aside and say, you know what, it's easier just to call the newspaper and the radio guy, and we'll do a remote on the weekend, and we'll take a full page ad, and we'll sit back and see what happens. So it's really just, it's ducking from what the real issue is, and that is cleaning up your contacts, making sure you know who you are, and being very strategic on how you hit them. So if you have a 4,000 database, you're not going after all 4,000 every week. You need to understand that there are people out there that are in SUVs, that buy SUVs at a certain time of year, and there's a cycle that you need to fall into and say, okay, well, let's market to them with some soft ads, and then about early fall, we're going to start going strong with our promotions on that. And so these people will now say, you know what, actually, I'm going to go look at this SUV market and see if there's something that I need in there. You know, I've had some responses. I've seen that. I got what we call a cadence, and we've followed that through. And you know what? Now that 1.9 actually is rather interesting to us. You know, there's some dealers out there that every month they hold a private sale, and they hit 5,000 to 8,000 people a week and say, come on in, we have elephants this weekend. Hey, come on in, we have 0% this weekend. So it's really owning it and knowing what your future plan is, not just blasting it out there and hoping for the best. You know, there's a lot of misunderstanding between advertising and marketing, I guess, is probably.
Well, we saw that on that on your slide there, and it's very interesting how you mentioned a clean database, because I don't know how many times I've seen in the past where somebody is in the database under 3 or 4 different entities. It's the same person, and they get one at their home email, their office email, their spouse's email, and their kids' email, and then they just check out. How important is the actual message, the cadence of the message?
Well, I think it all boils down to cadence, to be honest with you, Jeff. And the reason I say that is if you haven't formed a meaningful relationship with your customer through a normal connection that you would be in a normal human being, phoning every now and again, saying, you know, and COVID was such an amazing opportunity for dealers to reach out and clean up their database, and just to be able to say, hey, how are things in your house? Are you okay? Is everybody still working the way they used to work? You need some payment deferrals. You know, is this going to affect how you're going to do your tire changeover this year? Is just everything okay? You're going to get a response of, you know what, thanks for calling, I really appreciate it. And you're going to have a meaningful conversation with your customers. And when you set up the cadence, it cannot be, as I referenced earlier, you cannot be, come buy a car, come buy a car, come buy a car, come buy a car. You're going to get unsubscribed so badly that your database is just going to slowly walk away. You know, you'd mentioned earlier about having the right emails in the right spot, and I referenced it as well. You know, we see, even in my family, I'm the one who looks after the servicing, the maintenance, making sure the car gets dropped off, make sure the tires get done. So for a dealership to have my wife's email is absolutely useless. She does not, that's not how we've split up our tasks in our house. And so for them to have her email and sending her promotional information doesn't make any difference to her at all. She's just going to delete it. It needs to go to me. But if they haven't taken the time to actually figure out who in the household does the servicing, who looks after the maintenance, who looks after this, who looks after that, then they're marketing to the wrong person. And we're not far away from each other, but they're going to the wrong person. So cadence is really probably step 2, I'm going to say, as far as
What's
first
it?
you got to decide you're going to do it. And then step 2 is, what are you actually going to do? What is the journey you're going to take your customers on?
It's very interesting that you said that, because it isn't just in families. It's individuals, I would assume, that maybe somebody really just doesn't have interest in servicing their car, and they need a more engaging message, I would imagine.
Yeah, very, very, very,
instead
very
of a family. So we've got two types. There's many types, I'm sure, especially, from your end, but you've got conquest and you got retention marketing. So how does the costing compare between the two?
It's night and day. Like, again, in some markets, and I don't have off the top of my head what it is in Vancouver, but you go into some of these major metro markets, it's costing you just sub $1,000 to get a customer. And we've got dealers out there, they got budgets of $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a month for advertising, and that's really just to keep them relevant. And meanwhile, in the other pocket, they've got 6,000, 7,000 people in their database that are virtually free to market to, and to send these messages out and be able to actually engage them, because you've got all this wonderful information of how many kilometers, when the last time you saw the car, how often they service with you, who the original salesperson was, all this fantastic, deep information that you can reach out to them and say, hey, your previous salesman, Jeff, had asked me to reach out to you because it's been a few years since you bought the car, and he noticed that you weren't going to do your timing belt. And he was wondering, are you going to keep your car, or are you planning on selling it? Because if you're planning on selling it, my used car manager would love to have a look at it. That's a fantastic conversation to have with a client. And they're going to engage. They're going to say, well, you know what? I was actually thinking I didn't want to spend the money on the timing belt. I was going to sell it. But yeah, if you guys are interested, I'll bring it by and your used car manager can have a look at it.
So Barry, I got a question from the group.
Yes.
What percentage of customers does the average dealership retain? Now, I think that's a question, obviously, on the sales and service side. Do you have any metrics there, or can you share any light there? Shed any light?
Not on an average, I don't. It varies so much. You'll see it jump around from domestic to import. The import buyer is usually much more loyal than a domestic. Because of the way they've marketed, they've all ran around and said, we'll save you $1, come buy a car here. So there isn't really, I would say it has more to do with the individual dealer and what focus they're put on it. Do they have a retention program in-house? Do they have an oil change program? Do they have tires for life program? Do they have something like that? Do they send out a newsletter on a monthly basis? And do they have a fantastic cadence that actually keeps your customer engaged? And we get to the point in some of our dealerships where the customers expect an email from you. It's no longer that they feel marketed to. They actually expect that you're going to remind them when it's time to do their tires. They expect they're going to get reminded when it's time to come in for an oil change, because the dealer's done such an amazing job of being relevant in their life that they're like, well, no, I'll just wait. Don't worry. When the Corolla comes on sale, I'll get an email from my dealership, and they know what to do when my lease is up, and they got me looked after. And it switches over from really being marketed to being looked after.
Okay. Thank you.
So it's funny how you mentioned that, and it rings well in my mind, and many of us here too. It's easier for somebody to pick up the phone and call the private sale company for certainly more than nothing to get it done, and for them to do the work. And this digital marketing, of course, is free, and you can touch base with them all the time. And so as we move along here, what's the best practices, one of the best practices you can leave us with, or your best practice you can recommend?
Honestly, the biggest thing is own it. Own it. Know what you're doing, know why you're doing it, and have a solid plan as to who is doing what. Who honestly owns the marketing in the dealership? Who knows that service is trying to sell tires, or service and parts are trying to sell tires this month, that they have a big push, the manufacturer's got a program? Does sales know that? Is sales putting it on every contract? Are they quoting it with every single deal that they put through the floor? Does the whole building know? So one of the breakdowns we see is it's very typical in the automotive industry, where the walls go up and service is doing this promo and sales is doing that promo, and all these things are broken down. The real thing is does everybody know what everybody's trying to accomplish? And if service knows what sales is trying to do, when they see that at a Honda store and they see that Cherry CRV come through, are they reaching out to the sales department to say, hey, I got the perfect trade for you in the service drive right now? And if they're not, then you've got a breakdown, and nobody's owning it. Nobody's actually connecting all the dots, because if you don't do that, you'll never have the right cadence, and you'll look a little silly when you start reaching out to your customer at the wrong times. And it's really about connecting with them at the right time with the right message and taking them on a journey. It could be a 6-month journey. It could be a 2-year journey that takes them from relative interest to, yes, I'd like the black one.
I have another question, last question for you, Barry. How important is it to present the dealership fixed operations side of the business while the customer is buying a new car? Any ideas on how to tie the journey in for the customer?
It's absolutely crucial. It's always tricky in a dealership, because each dealership, whether it's the layout of the building, the buy-in from the salesperson, whatever the case may be, there's always some hurdles. So the best practice that I've seen coming out of some of the more successful dealerships is when Jeff drives his car home tonight, tomorrow morning he gets a phone call from the service department saying, hey, Jeff, how was your drive home? How's your new car? Did you enjoy it? I just want to take 5 minutes of your time, and I want to make sure that I got the right emails in the right spots, the right phone numbers in the right spots. I got your address correct. Let's just go over that really quickly. Do you have a few minutes to work with me right now? Jeff says, yeah, absolutely. The drive home was great. Let's get our information correct. Spend 5 minutes connecting him with it. Hey, you know what? If you have any issues at all, my name is, you give me a call and we'll sort out how to pair your phone. We'll get your navigation figured out. We'll do whatever you need. And Jeff, if it's okay with you, I'm going to call you in about 6 months and let you know when your first service is due. Also, Jeff, next week we have a new owners clinic we'd love to invite you to. I'm going to send you an email right now to invite you to that. Just RSVP if you could to that, and we'll get you enrolled. We now have Jeff in a position where we have all the right information. We have him invited to our new owners clinic, and we've told him that in 6 months we're going to call him and tell him when his first service is.
Yeah. Okay.
Jeff is now, he's bought in. He's rolled in. He's like, good, these guys got it. I don't need to have a part-time job of how to maintain my car. My dealership is going to look after me. They're going to look after me on that level.
Thanks, Barry. So I'm going to bring Robert into the conversation. If you don't know Robert, he's the head of business development for Kijiji, an eBay company. Has a lot of seasoned experience working for some of the biggest auto groups in not only in Ontario, but nationally, and also was rated, I guess, 40 under 40 for Canada. So congratulations on that, Robert. Thanks for taking the time today. And I guess, Robert, you have some slides you want to share?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I just want to say I love the hairstyle theme that's going on here. I feel very welcome with everyone, almost everyone, and thanks to Barry for the great presentation and prior to. So yeah, I have slides, I have data, I have information. I am here to share everything I know. Just a quick background about me. Prior to joining Kijiji 2 years ago, I had 11 years in automotive retail between two automotive groups. The first one was Wayne's Canada, formerly the Don Valley North Automotive Group. And then I transferred to Dilawri Group of Companies, where I ran digital operations for Dilawri nationally for almost 4 years before heading to Kijiji. So I have experience with almost every single OEM, definitely from a used vehicle perspective. And in my career, I've done everything from sell vehicles to change oil to write service orders to do marketing and analytics, CRM, everything in between. So I have a pretty well-rounded base in terms of automotive retail. So I'm happy to share any information that I can today. So just a first little spot, if I could steal.
I'm just going to stop share so you can share. Is that cool?
Yeah, fantastic. So let me share my screen. 1 second. That's what I'm looking for. So you should be able to see a big Kijiji Autos logo and then our mission. Does that look good for everybody? So if you're not familiar with Kijiji Autos, it's Canada's largest automotive vehicle marketplace. We have Kijiji.ca that all Canadians know and love, and we have KijijiAutos.ca, which is a standalone platform specifically for passenger vehicles and that experience. The mission of Kijiji and Kijiji Autos is to enable all Canadians to benefit from trading vehicles safely and conveniently within their own community. And that's just a real kind of Canadian value as a whole. So who we are, we combine what Canadians love about Kijiji with new vehicle-specific features that make searching for, comparing, and buying vehicles safer and easier. We're the most visited automotive marketplace in Canada, and we have tools to really help dealers navigate this new and ever-changing world of digital retailing and automotive selling in online. Specifically for COVID, some of the things that we did very, very quickly, we did everything we could to support our dealers. We waived listing and feature subscription fees for a number of months, and we extended payment terms, which dealers are still reaching out to us today and thanking us for assisting us, and we were just happy to do so because we know that helping the community helps everyone involved, all the way from the customer to the dealership. And we very quickly developed new badges that help dealers identify where they were in the COVID process. So dealers could easily identify if they were open for service, only open for sales, if they had specific cleaning processes in place, if they had at-home delivery, if they had online financing, that type of thing. And that really tremendously helped out our dealerships and our buying customers during the peak of when COVID was real scary, and no one really knew what was going on. Our goal was to inform consumers as much as possible and help dealers to do that. And these are the response badges as a whole. And we found these were extraordinarily helpful. And we're very happy to provide constant iteration on ways that we can help dealers. And when COVID is transitioned out, we're going to use this technology and adapt it for ongoing, because the automotive landscape is not going to be the same. It's not something that is going to kind of fall back into old habits. There will be some permanent changes in the way that people sell cars going forward.
Question for you.
Yeah.
What are the top reasons Canadians are looking for new vehicles right now, do you think?
Yeah, so what I can show you very quickly, let me share another screen. So one of the benefits of Kijiji being part of eBay Classifieds Group is we have different marketplaces all over the world, and we share data with those marketplaces constantly. Best practices, what works, what doesn't. And when you have a global pandemic, it's really great that we can share this information at scale very, very quickly. And one of the other things that we did as part of this is we did a study with eBay Classifieds Group. I'm just going to pull this up here. Actually, can you see the screen with the overview of participants?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we, as part of the survey, we surveyed 500 customers across Canada between April 30th and May 10th. And we wanted to ask them a number of questions, specifically, related to COVID and where they are in the process. So to answer your question, Ian, what were the key takeaways? What are consumers looking? What are the number one reasons that they have to buy cars today? And what we found is one of the most important reasons was the same reason that everyone needs to buy a car. Someone needs a car to go get groceries, to drive to and from work. If someone still has to physically leave the house during COVID, taking care of loved ones, going to visit loved ones, all of those reasons to buy a car still were the same. We had a pandemic that adjusted what people could do, but the demand of those vehicles remained. And what we saw as things started to get better and different provinces started entering different exits of COVID, we saw those sales pick up really frequently. The other reasons that we have that dealers that consumers are looking to buy cars, we have a few new reasons now. So there are some individuals that are looking for alternatives to public transportation. Public transportation isn't as safe as others perceived it to be. There's an interesting article in Automotive News that came out this morning that specifically talks about that, about people in urban areas are less likely to want public transit and feel that they are safest inside of their own vehicle, and that may cause a surge to accommodate for those situations. And then at the same time, you have people that may have additional income that normally would have been spent on things like travel or daycare, for example. And if you can't travel anywhere, if you can't, go on your yearly trip to the Caribbean or to Europe, what are you going to spend that money on? And one of the things that we're starting to see is that consumers are looking for a way to pamper themselves and to travel. So, hey, let's get maybe a nicer vehicle than we were originally anticipating, or get into a vehicle sooner. So those are the key reasons in which we see consumers that are looking to buy cars in this post-COVID world.
And I have a question from the audience that it shows that there's a huge backlog out there. Is that correct?
Yeah, because the demand largely hasn't gone away and people were prevented from proceeding, there definitely is a backlog, and dealers have been taking advantage of this. One notable example, I was looking on LinkedIn the other day, there was a video of a gentleman named Marco from Hardy Queensway who sold 44 vehicles in a month. And he did a quick video to showcase what that was all about. And it was largely, I think, I have the number, 36 of the 44 were sales that originated either from an e-lead or a phone call. So that speaks to this kind of changing reality that dealers have to come to terms that the majority of the sale is moving outside of the dealership. And this is not just, COVID related. It's not like it's going to go back when, everything's opened up and people can cut their hair again. The reality is that this has been a catalyst to change the mentality, like push it further. And now you're going to have more of the deal happening outside of the dealership than you are going to have the deal happening inside of the dealership.
And how do you think dealers can keep their leads warm? Obviously I've talked to dealers who are using things like Microsoft Teams. The gentleman you mentioned, I know he was doing a lot of work with his phone in terms of, FaceTime and other things to try and engage that customer when they're remote with a huge data bill, I'm sure. But the question there is, how do you keep the leads warm when maybe they're not physically in the store?
Yeah, and that was a very unique problem for the months of April and May, because dealers are not hardwired to put off a sale. By definition, salespeople are looking to convert leads as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible. The idea to hold off on sales and just to keep everyone warm is a very foreign concept in automotive retail. So there was a lot of really quick learning that had to be done to keep these leads warm. The joke that I say when someone asks me this question is that there was a lot of digital heat lamps that were purchased where you just put the leads underneath and wait for COVID to blow over. But, I think Barry touched on this in the first segment about being very cognizant of what you're sending to dealers. And this was extraordinarily important in the depths of COVID and continues to be going forward, that you can't operate with the same send an email blast, send a marketing piece to everyone and expect everything to be fine anymore. You have to be very precise in all of your communications. You need to find ways to really reduce the churn that happens by blasting the same message again and again. And you have to think about what you're trying to say, what are you trying to accomplish, and what is the end goal, and how that works in the long term. And when we couldn't really sell cars as we normally could for a short period of time, you had to keep leads activated without the ability to sell them. So, you had to explain to consumers, this is the reality. This is what we can and cannot do at this time, and we'll keep you updated as it changes. Here's some examples of other customers buying from us, and here's some great videos of them in the process. So Ryan Thompson, for example, from Ernie Dean Chevrolet, he did some great videos of showing the start to finish process of delivering a car remotely. And now he's doing some videos showcasing consumers and their perspective of buying a car in COVID or post-COVID. And that's really helpful for consumers. Another big thing that we found from our research report was there is a lot of animosity from consumers about safety, specifically regarding test drive. So we know that consumers are still 100% really interested in test drives, but now they're really worried about how a vehicle is safe, and how is it cleaned, and how is it maintained, and how are they going to be able to test drive it in a safe environment. So our study looked at that as well, and one of the key takeaways, 60% of the people that we surveyed were going to delay their purchase until they're able to have a safe and solo test drive with the vehicle they're interested in buying. So you mix online communication with the need for a safe solo test drive, and the best course of action when you're looking at being really metered with your email communications is show consumers that process. Show consumers how your vehicles are being cleaned. Show them how you would bring them to be delivered, and how they can feel safe. So those are all great things that they can do.
So what are some creative solves other than video? I know that I've seen a lot of video online. I think it's very, very good. But what are some creative solves and interesting ways dealers are handling these challenges as you look out into the market?
So there's two other examples that I'd like to bring up. One of them was the Wolf Automotive Group out in Alberta. And they got a lot of really fantastic attention by just being good humans. And they spent a lot of time delivering groceries to at-risk consumers. And they used that as an opportunity to build goodwill in the community, to keep all their staff, in communication with their staff. If you have at-risk customers, what great way to reach out to them. And at the same time, as Barry said, maybe update their information, but say, hey, can we pick up groceries for you, right? Those are fantastic things. And, at the same time, if your car needs service, we'll pick it up for you. But, the Wolf Group did a fantastic job of just being great humans and showcasing that. And a lot of media picked up on that, and a lot of word got out. Another great experience, and it's not just because I used to work for them, but it's really amazing what they've done. Dilawri Group of Companies has developed the Dilawri mobile experience. And if you see, they have this glass trailer where it looks like it's almost like Hot Wheels. So they put vehicles in this glass trailer that as you're driving down the road and you can see it, it looks like, you know, this pristine car and this glass tray, like, and they deliver it, you know, door to door to the consumers, and they take video and they showcase it. You know, there's a few Toronto Raptors that they did it for, which got a little more attention than the average consumer, but they've had a fantastic job, or they've done a fantastic job of showcasing how they're navigating these new waters in the current world that we have. So I think the moral of the story here is, whatever you do, make sure that it's, you know, honest and earnest, and it's about being good and trying to do things the right way. And in the grand scheme of things, if you capture that and you publish that in an honest way, that will have remarkable effects. And at the same time, you know, there is no questioning, we are still in the business of selling cars. That is still the main focus. And yes, a lot of these topics are kind of outside of that direct world, but, you know, we need that ability to be flexible, to adapt to these changing times, and maybe expect or ask a little more out of sales staff. You know, maybe encourage or show or help sales staff build more profiles online, like, you know, Marco from Audi Queensway. If you do a video, and if you do a video series as a salesperson on you being successful, how happy your consumers are, that's going to have, you know, great effects long term. You start building a following, you start building a name for yourself, and that helps the dealers. So, you know, these items I've talked about for over a decade, but they're worth more now more than ever, because the majority of this, the sale is happening outside of the dealership these days.
Yeah, I think the question from the group, and I think it's a good question, is, you know, how does a small one point store compete with, say, a large dealer group? And I'll use the example of maybe not a 1 point store, but a multiple point group out here in British Columbia, the Not Automotive Group or Caught Automotive Group. You know, they did an interesting giveaway. I think it was like $10,000 to a couple of people, and they did all the calls to the customer on video, and then they posted it. So I thought it was pretty interesting. But they've also done some very entertaining videos, sort of promoting their brand over the last, call it 60, 90 days. That it's really part of a larger strategy. And I think you could do that as a small dealer group, like Car Farmers, for example. That's a small point.
And I've worked in the biggest of the groups. And when I started with Don Valley, they were still pretty big, but, you know, they were at the time 4 stores when I first started there. So I've seen kind of both sides of it. When you're a mega group, it's hard to do things because size, right? It takes a lot of firepower and a lot of momentum to move a cruise ship. Whereas if you're a small little speedboat, you're a lot more nimble. You have a lot more empowerment to do what it is that you think is the right thing to do. And you know, Ernie Dean Chevrolet is a perfect example of someone who's, you know, standing toe to toe with any dealer group or any size by just doing things the right way. So, you know, sometimes it's easier for a smaller store.
If I could just interject and support you on that a little bit. I think one of the things that is different, and you worked in some of these groups, so correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the biggest differences is the big groups can actually have one person that is their job. It is not the sales manager's job to do it kind of between the 10th of the month and the 20th of the month. And then as month end rolls around, he gets distracted and he's got to go back to selling cars and doing all this kind of stuff. They actually have somebody who's got an ability to lay out a plan for the dealership, for the group, that's a unified voice, and actually can focus on that all month, all year. That is just what they do. Is that a fair comment?
I would say it's half of a fair comment, because yes, that is very true. Bigger groups can afford maybe a marketing person, maybe a video person, that type of thing, for sure. However, you still have to get engagement from everyone else at the dealership. And while it's easier because you have a full-time marketing person, you then need to get buy-in from 18, 50, 75 individual stores. And that's where the lift becomes problematic, because yeah, you may have a single person running marketing, it's not easy getting 12, 15, 30 stores to agree. Nigh impossible. So there are different challenges, because if you, as a group, are pitching a concept, you have to make sure that every store is 100% on board. And depending on the makeup of the group, sometimes that's not possible. If you have groups that general managers have stakes in ownership, for example, and they have autonomy to make their own decisions, really hard to get buy-in, no matter what. If you have a group where everyone, sings from the same song sheet, you still have issues trying to roll something out universally, especially when you are looking at different brands across a group, different OEM mandates, different brand strategies, different software that's being pushed. So in one sense, it is easier to maintain headcount, but it's harder to execute as a result.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what Chris Reyes is doing, he works for an Auto Canada store. He's pretty much, even when he was working for a One Point Mitsubishi store, he was constantly putting out content as a sales manager and building the store brand. I don't know if that's in alignment with Auto Canada at all, but he's always out there, spreading the word. So I think a lot of it is just having that initiative, and getting agreement is, very difficult, especially with a group with, call it 80 stores. I mean, even with a small group with 14 might be challenging, unless the, senior management really mandates it. And even then it can be challenging. I have a final question for you though. What are some of the must-dos for dealers during this time?
Yeah, the must-dos are very similar to the must-dos that, you've been hearing in any sort of digital automotive summit, talk, white paper, conference, etc. Except now you really, 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 really need to do them. So, as customers are spending more time online making those decisions, expecting more of the deal, you really need to make sure that your online presence as a dealer is as good, or if not better, than what your experience is in the store. Because if the consumer's doing, maybe 1.4, 1.5 store visits per purchase, depending on who you're pulling the data from, that means that there's 60, 70, 80 store visits online over the course of, anywhere from 40 to 60 days. So when you have your inventory presented online, it should be at the same level as your salesperson on the floor doing a hood and trunk. It has to be of the same quality. And you take that mentality and you try to extrapolate on it. And you try to say, okay, is the description of that quality? Is the description good enough that it answers all the consumer's questions so that you've removed the barrier and the consumer can just buy the car? Are the photos as good as a hood and trunk in person? And what's even better, if you can do a video walk around, Marco from Audi Queensway, in his video, he talks about the gigabytes of data that he used on his phone in a month, but he sold 44 cars. So whatever, it's a gigawatt, doesn't matter. So the changing world is that you need the effort that is normally put in person on the hood and trunk still needs to be there, but it also needs to be online as well. And you're going to have less customers coming in the showroom, especially now because consumers have hesitancies, new COVID realities, etc. Put that effort online. And the more effort you put online, the more cars you're going to sell. So that's one of the biggest things.
Appreciate that.
One of the other things, Ian, just real quick, is that, and I know you're going to want to wrap up soon, but is the fact that the automotive industry is now being compared to almost every other industry out there. So they're being compared to what does the nail salon doing? What's their restaurant doing? What is their hair cutting, wherever salon, barber, whatever? What are they doing to make the experience better? Is now an expectation in the automotive world. We ducked it for a long time because that's just how we did business. But now we're all being held to the same meter stick and saying, hey, are you doing as good a job as someone else is doing? I think it's just something we all have to be aware of.
100% agree. So next week's show, thanks very much to both the guests for all the knowledge. Really appreciate it. And obviously, if there's questions, feel free to reach out to me and Robert or Barry if you want to share any data. I have to put on the website. Next week's show, we're going to have two automotive pros that I've known for years, Janice from the Car Girls out of Ontario and Matt out of Western Canada, talking about business development centers and the pros and cons there, whether it be outsourced or in-house. There's also Vendor Speak this Friday with Paul from the Auto Trainer from 2 weeks ago show. So if you're interested, there will be some details sent out on that. And feel free to check out our improved website, watch past episodes, check out short clips. We are building a YouTube channel, Facebook and Instagram to be built soon. And we will also be doing short clips for shows for the last several shows soon. But if there's any ideas, we're all ears. Jeff and I are all interested in obviously building the network and helping as many dealers as we can.
I want to put in just in a point about the Vendor Speak. So Paul, the Auto Trainer, on Friday is going to come on, and Paul's developed a great platform for virtual. As many of you know, there's really sort of two schools of thought and training. One is in person and one is doing videotapes. Paul has actually developed a process where he can train anybody anywhere. So it's certainly worth it for anybody who's not in the fine lower mainland of Vancouver to tune in, and he's got some great stuff and some killer information, to quote him.
And any final comments from either speaker or anyone else on the call?
No, it's all good. Thanks everybody for your time this morning. I appreciate that.
Thanks for your input, gentlemen.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks everybody for attending.
Thanks. I'm just getting the meeting, Jeff. We can talk after.
Okay.